when to use double consonants in English. Sometimes, when we want to add a suffix like ing or ed to an English word, we double the consonant that comes before it. For example, run becomes running with two N's. However, sometimes we keep the spelling of the root word the same without adding a double consonant. For example, pick becomes picking. So knowing when to use a double consonant or a single consonant in English can seem really confusing. And it's really important to get the spelling right when we add a suffix. If we don't, we can write completely the wrong word down. For example, hope can become hoping or hopping. Let's look at 4 rules that will help you to understand whether or not to double a consonant in English. As we go through the rules, you will notice that they are related to how the word sounds when it is spoken aloud. Rule number 1. Consonant, short vowel, consonant. Many short English words are made up of a consonant, a short vowel, and then another consonant. By a short vowel, we mean a, I, o, instead of a, e, I, o, u. Here are some examples. Bat, which uses the short a sound. Wet, which uses the short e sound. Sit, which uses the short I sound. Hop, which uses the short o sound. Put, which uses the short sound. So, rule number 1. If we want to add a suffix, such as ing, to these kinds of words, we do need to double the last consonant. Bat becomes batting. Wet becomes wetting. Sit becomes sitting. Hop becomes hopping. Put becomes putting. The rule will also work for longer English words that are made up of just one syllable. For example, stop or grab. The rule works because these words are still using the short form of the vowel sound. Stop, which uses the short o vowel sound between 2 consonants, becomes stopping. Grab, which uses the short a vowel sound between 2 consonants, becomes grabbing. Rule number 2. Consonant, short vowel, double consonant. Rule number 2 builds on what we have covered in rule number 1. This time, we're going to see what happens when a root word starts with a consonant, uses a short vowel, but then has a double consonant. For example, the words last, pelt, link, jump. In these cases, we do not need to double the first consonant when adding a suffix. The root word stays the same. Last becomes lasting, pelt becomes pelting, link becomes linking, jump becomes jumping. Remember, there are always exceptions to the rules like this in English. For example, with irregular verbs. Don't worry too much about this for now. You will learn these exceptions with time and practice. Rule number 3. Consonant, long vowel, consonant. So far, we've looked at rules for short vowels that use a short vowel sound. Now we're going to look at words that use a long vowel sound. Here are some example regular verbs that follow that pattern. Hate, which uses the long A sound. Heat, which uses the long E sound. Rise, which uses the long I sound. Hope, which uses the long O sound. Suit, which uses the long U sound. If we want to add a suffix such as ing or ed to these words that use a long vowel sound, we do not need to double the last consonant. Hate becomes hating or hated. Heat becomes heating or heated. Size becomes sizing or sized. Hope becomes hoping or hoped. Suit becomes suited or suiting. Notice here that if the root word ends in an E, such as in the words hate, size and hope, that E is dropped before the suffix is added. Rule number 4. For our final rule, we're going to look at when to use double consonants in English words with 2 or more syllables or sounds. To use this rule, you need to pay attention to which syllable is stressed the most when the word is spoken out loud, so where the emphasis is in that word. Let's look at an example. In the word occur, there are 2 syllables, The stress or emphasis is placed on the final syllable, It's a harder, more dominant sound. So if we want to add a suffix, we need to double the consonant in the dominant syllable, occurring or occurred. Let's look at another example root word, prefer. When we say this word out loud, we notice it has 2 syllables, prefer. The emphasis when we say this word out loud is on the second sound, fer. So if we want to add a prefix, we need to double that second consonant after the vowel. Prefer becomes preferred or preferring. If the emphasis is on the first syllable in the word, there is no need to double the consonant. Here are some examples where we don't need to double the consonant when adding a suffix to a root word. Listen. In this word, the emphasis is on the first syllable, lis. So we don't need to double the consonant in order to add a suffix. Listening or listened. Let's work through another example together with the root word happen. When we say the word out loud, the stress is on the first syllable, ha, happen, ha. So we don't need to double the final consonant when adding a suffix. Happening or happened.